call a meeting for Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the B&T Railroad to order. It is Thursday, January 28th at 1:05 p.m. Let's all stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have roll call, please.
Clay Mitchell.
Sorry, there we go, here.
Denny Dodson.
Here.
Stan Jones.
Present.
David Peterson.
Present.
Stephanie Hicks.
Here.
Chairman, we have a full quorum.
Okay. I'd like to welcome our new members, Clay, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. And item number 2 for possible action, approval of the agenda.
Chairman Jones, I would like to remove item number 9 from the agenda until a future meeting.
Okay. Any other changes?
I didn't hear from any other board members.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll go ahead and do that. For the record, Denny Dotson, I'll approve today's agenda with the change of moving item number 9 to our next meeting.
Thank you. Any public comment? Second?
I'll second Dave Peterson.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, any public comment on non-agendized items?
I received no requests for public information or public comment.
Seeing none, we'll move to item 4 for possible action, approval of the meeting minutes for Thursday, November 18, 2020. That was a long time ago. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Chairman Jones, there were a couple of corrections, which are one of our new commissioners spotted. Stephanie, thank you for that. And those changes were made, and a clean copy was emailed to all of you this morning.
Yeah, I got mine. I will entertain a motion, please.
Chairman Stephanie Hicks, I move to approve the corrected minutes of November 18th, 2020.
Thank you. Any public comment? Seeing none? All those in, second, please.
I'll be happy to second that.
Thank you, Danny. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed. Item number 5. For possible action, discuss the resignation of Stan Jones as the B&T Railroad Commissioner representing the state of Nevada and steps for replacement. So do I step down at this point?
You may. Yeah, if you would, please just explain the situation and the reason for stepping down. And
Well, I was appointed to the Board of Supervisors effective January 3rd, and it's a conflict, and the time amount was spent. I just don't have the time to do it anymore, so I'm stepping down. Before I do, I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. I just want to acknowledge a lot of people for their support and advice and friendship that I've made over the 4 years that I've been on this board. First of all, Mike Rowe, I truly appreciate your legal advice and your friendship, and I thank you for all you've done for us.
Thanks, Stan.
Also, Ken Dorr, our engineer, for all his support and technical advice. And Marshall McBride, I really miss him for his early on support and his always assistance in obtaining funds for various projects. He was one of our leaders. Mike Santos for his leadership and active role in assisting us in getting the rail bikes into the system. He did a lot of extra work, and I appreciate that. And all the board members for all the functions and meetings we've had. You've all been supportive, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your friendship. But none of this could have happened without Elaine. Uh, she's just provided us support in all areas. She's a visionary, a doer, hands-on, whose leadership, accounting expertise, and overall sound management practice has put the VNT where it is today. And I truly respect you and thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you, Stan.
With that, I'll pass the gavel to Denny, I guess. Thank you.
Well, Stan, I for one want to thank you as well. You brought new energy to the commission at a time when it was, brand new from the being reorganized from the state legislature, and it was nice to have that senior leadership from a Carson City standpoint as we work through a whole new era with the train there. But I guess before we move on, we probably, unless there's other comment from any other board member here or the public on this item. Dave?
I want to say thank you, Stan, as well. You've been amazing on the VNT, and I've enjoyed our conversations even before I came on to the VNT. And I'm going to personally miss you, but you're just a stone's throw away too, so I can always swing by the Purple Avocado and
Thank
see
you,
you.
thank you,
So thank you,
Danny.
Stan.
Elaine, or anybody, would you like to make?
Yes, please.
Go ahead,
Please.
Elaine, yeah.
Okay, Stan, before you step down, unless you want to step over here by me. So Stan, none of this could have happened without you. These past 3 years, having you in the role of commissioner, VNT commissioner, and then stepping up to chairman of the board. And we made a lot of changes. We had a lot of great accomplishments. We set a record year, and if it weren't for COVID, we'd still be setting those records. But you are truly one of a kind. And the city of Carson City is lucky to have you and to have your expertise and your solid leadership. And so Stan, this is something that we had made for you. And it is, you can tell it's a steam engine, but it reads Stan Jones, VNT Railway Commission, October 2017 through January of 2021, and Chairman, July 2019 through January 2021. VNT recognizes you for your many years of service on the VNT Railway Commission. We thank you for your exemplary commitment to the success of the VNT Railway. There you go. There's for your show.
Great, thank you, Elaine. Any other public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, Thomas Gray wanted to say thank you to Stan for all his hard work.
Okay, great. Great, okay, so with that, if there's no other discussion, I will entertain a motion for agenda item number 5 to accept the resignation of Stan Jones.
Denny, I move to accept the resignation by Stan Jones begrudgingly.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah, Clay Mitchell, I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, again, one final call, no comments? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Denny,
Yes, sir.
Denny,
Yes, sir.
there's another aspect to this agenda item. If you have, if any of the commissioners have recommendations on replacement of Stan, you should probably put it on the record now.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll go ahead and open that back up before we do a final vote on this to any further discussion on that. Being that it is a agendized item, we can have a little discussion on thoughts. I know that this position is appointed by the governor's office, but I don't believe it does any harm with us making a recommendation to that. But if we have some people in mind or thoughts, open it up to the board.
This is Stephanie Hicks. I don't have a particular recommendation, but we have, expressed that if there are people that are interested, there's a process to go through the governor's office to do so.
Anybody else?
This is Clay Mitchell. I don't have any specific recommendations. Certainly, I'd like to see a robust process and make sure that we cast that net wide.
Yeah, I really don't have anybody in mind. I think that it's always nice to have a little extra help with marketing. One thought would be a state agency like the Travel Nevada, whether it be one of their director positions or maybe one of their board members. Potentially could be another option, but again, I don't know their interest or if that would even be a conflict. But it's always nice to get someone from it would be a state position, someone that's neutral. But just a thought. But any other public comment on that item? Okay, I believe we still have a motion and a second on the floor. If I'll get all those in favor again?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to agenda item number 6 for possible action. Nomination and election of an interim chair and vice chairman to serve January 2021 through June 2021. It seems a bit odd, but I know maybe Elaine, you could just elaborate real quickly before we go into discussion with the board on why that short time frame is worded this way.
Okay. Included in your package was a copy of SB 57, and that it gave us our direction. And we can fill voids, but we have to hold the election every odd year in July. Or for the beginning, the individuals would begin July 1st. And because of this and the way that it was worded, and speaking with Michael Rowe, it was decided these are interim positions. We did, Marshall McBride, no longer serving on Story County as a Story County's county commission. That opened that seat, and now we have Stan having to step down and resigning. So that gives us 2 positions that are open and 2 interim positions available.
Great. Okay, thank you, Elaine. With that, I'll open up to discussion with the board or a possible nomination. Let's look at chairman first. Stephanie,
Hicks.
I can't do it.
Thank you. I would like to nominate David Peterson for interim chairman of the board.
And I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, great. Any discussion from the public on that? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for all those in favor. Aye.
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 Do I s- Aye? Sure.
Oh, either way, motion carries. And with that, I will pass this hot little gavel back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
It's like a hot potato.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate that, and I've got some big shoes to fill, Stan, so don't dog me on this, okay? Let's continue on then with agenda item 6, and I'll open it up for nominations for an interim vice chairperson.
I'll jump in there, and I think with our new commissioner in Story County, I think would be maybe more than appropriate if you wouldn't mind stepping in, and I'll nominate Clay Mitchell as our vice chair for the V&T.
Great, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none?
I know, that's the question, right? It's funny because at our first commission meeting, Lance Gilman got the jump on me and nominated me for vice chair up there as well, even though I was the new guy. I was not expecting it, but I'm happy to help out in any way I can.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Clay.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 7. For possible action, discuss the Draco note and balance due to V&T Railway Commission by Roy Street. Roy Street has requested a payment of $200,000 and an extension for the current note. So can I turn that over to you, Elaine?
Thank you. I'd also emailed all of you a copy of a calculation of what the payments would include. Roy Street was due to call in today. I tried to get a hold of him yesterday and again today to remind him, but I did not receive a call back nor an email, and I had emailed him as well. What I do have is a simple email from him, and it said, Elaine, on the balance I owe of 3581 Drake Way, I would like to pay $200 now, and you finance the balance. And so what I sent to you all using the calculator, or the online mortgage calculator, using the same terms that we had used before years ago when we financed the remainder of the Draco for him. It was a 5% interest rate and was compounded monthly. Now that payment included a balloon payment that was due this month of $429,699. But he didn't do that due to the fact that it is, right now, it's a cannabis cultivation center, is what it's been converted into. He wasn't able to refinance it. So therefore, he's asked for this consideration. It's up to the board, and I've spoke with Michael Rowe on this a couple of times. But the options were a 4-year and a 5-year option. The 4-year, his payment would be $5,289.81. The 5-year, his payment would be $4,334.70. That, of course, we have always used the Draco payment to offset the costs of operation. So not having a payment each month would right now we have it budgeted that we have at least a $2,800 payment each month to use towards operations, and that was part of our budget. When we knew that this major balloon payment was going to be due in January, we just didn't know, what the proposal from Mr. Street would be. And being that he is not here, and we can ask our attorney, Michael Rowe, but if you all were to provide me with your feedback, I could contact Mr. Street again and let him know what you've decided as far as if you've agreed to this, what those terms would be. And then also, there was a $1,700 interest payment that would have also been due as part of that balloon payment this month. And I would ask or recommend that we ask him for that interest payment of $1,700 to be added to his $200,000 that he would pay us as a down payment on this note.
Elaine, a question before we open up for discussion. Have you talked with him about the 2 amortization schedule options? Is that what you said, for the 4 years versus 5 years?
I sent him an email letting him know that these were the 2,
Options.
I am using the previous note.
Sure,
That's
sure.
what I used as a template.
Okay.
And it was like a 4.5 years, so I split the difference and went 4-year, 5-year. But I sent him an email. He knows that was the direction that we were heading. I told him I had no guarantee that the board would even accept continuing the note. It would be up to the board to extend his note or even to make changes to the terms. But he does have the building up for sale. Or the business up for sale. And I am aware of that, and he notified me of such.
But just to follow up, he didn't express interest one way or the other about 4 years, 5 years, or anything, because you said
No.
he didn't really respond back to you yet?
He did not.
Okay.
He did not. But it is, you can see the difference is about $2,700 difference, depending on which you choose. It's an increase each month, which frankly, during this time period, during, the pandemic, it would be welcome.
Well, that's great. I'll open it up for some discussion from my fellow commissioners.
Excuse me. From the outside, looking at operating income and cash flow, it's nice to have a little bit of income. To have the 200,000 go into the bank at a time where we didn't run last year, and we're looking at a challenge probably this year of getting back to normal, doesn't sound like a bad idea, as long as the terms, I believe, are solid, and that the default penalties and all that stuff are all, laid out through our attorney. That I would be myself in favor of something that would work, but I certainly do whatever the board wishes.
No, I think that sounds very reasonable. Stephanie, Clay? wanna
So
weigh in?
just to make sure that I understand, is this note currently, and would it continue to be secured by the property?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, especially if the business is up for sale. And then I guess my next question would be, looking at kind of opportunity cost, I would imagine there's nothing on our horizon that we would use that additional money for in the short term that we have planned out, if comparing a full payoff right now versus continuing. And so please correct me if that's not the case, but if that's the case, and it would just be sitting in a bank, I imagine that this is going to be a better return than sitting in a bank account, as long as we feel comfortable with the terms and the security on the financing. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with either timeline, to be quite honest.
Stephanie?
Thank you. I don't have a problem with it either. I think it's a good opportunity, as everyone else said, to gain a little bit of extra income off of the property. The one thing, just for clarification of what we're doing here today and for the record, is the intent for us then to direct staff to bring back to us an agreement that we'll be able to review, that will specifically outline these terms if that's the direction we decide to go. So we're going to have another look at this. We're just not going to approve this change. Is that correct?
Yes, it would, Michael and I would work with Mr. Street to bring back the document, and then with your approval, the chairman would sign.
And Elaine, just a question. Would that also include the 200,000 plus 1,700? I'm not saying immediately, but that'll all be worked out as a part of this whole package, so to speak?
Yes, and in
Yeah.
fact, I'm sorry, David.
No, go
But
ahead,
good
go ahead.
point, good point. And you're looking at this option, it would be good to have a check for that balance, or for that amount during that meeting, to know that it was,
I would agree with that.
Doable.
I think that shows good faith on Mr. Street's part while we work out the 4-year. I'm kind of just, speaking for myself, but I like maybe looking at the 4-year repayment plan, so I don't know how my colleagues feel, but. Anybody want to take a stab at a motion then?
So just to be clear, the motion would be to direct staff to pursue or offer an agreement that would include the payment, the 4-year term, and then to bring it back to us for final approval.
Yeah, and the $1,700 in interest that would have been due this month.
yes, and also that the property stays as collateral. This isn't a promissory note that's open. This is collateral-based lease, or collateral-based agreement.
I think Stephanie has a question.
No, actually, I concur. I think the direction is great. If you need a second to that motion, I can
Okay.
be the second.
Let me see if I can craft a decent motion. So I, Clay Mitchell, move to instruct staff to negotiate an agreement to extend the loan to Mr. Street, to include the conditions of paying at least $200,000 and $1,700 in interest that is due this month for a term of no longer than 4 years, and for the balance to be secured by the property on Draco Way.
we have a motion? Do I have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All
Need
those
to
in
see if
favor?
there- to see if there's any public comment.
Oh, yeah. Any public comment? My apologies. Desi, any public comment?
I see no public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. We have a motion, second. Further discussion by the commission? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8 for possible action, the fiscal 21 financial reports, December 2020 year-to-date budget report. Elaine.
Okay, we have a budget versus actual that puts us through December. And I'm sorry while I thumb through here. Okay, so I've added some notes on the second page of the budget versus actual, and it's item number 8, the top of the page. But again, we started this budget. This budget was approved during a time period that we still didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. It's a budget that we were still going to, at this point in time, try to run a Polar Express, or at least a downsized Polar Express. And we were not able to, of course, run. And in fact, we even had additional, not obstacles, but, guidelines, CDC guidelines, that everything was downsized. So instead, we ran 2 alternative events. Neither one of those events lost money, but they were not the Polar Express either. And so, should I run that off again? Should I go over here to this one, or?
It appears automatically on our screens that way, so.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Well, I need the slip to see what I did.
Oh, just one.
Okay. So overall, I'm just going to say that, yes, we will be doing an augmented budget in order to meet the criteria of the State Department of Taxation. Again, I'm sure everybody's in the same boat as we are. We had to shift gears. We had to look at other alternatives. But overall, and that's where you see the over/under as far as in the budget. These were new things that we had not even projected. So when you see these big overages, like the 100%, wait, let's see where we have a big one. Well, like the 525% of budget. Those are things that furniture fixtures, we had to basically create, an event or a North Pole, and there were expenses related to it. So what I did was on the second page where it says fiscal notes, that gives you the explanation that the special events, the revenue, $38,000, the expenses, everything related to a special event was put in, the majority of it was just put in under one expense, the special events expense. We will probably not see those events again. That was just something that we did for this year. Let's hope we'll be able to do, like, for example, the Polar Express, an event like it next year. But this is what we had to do this year. The $16,400 in revenue that was above budget, not budgeted. Now that part of that was a $4,000 reimbursement, which also showed up as an expense and under expenses, but it's a wash. It was reimbursed. Now the FEMA grants, we had given up on our FEMA grants. We're still down one, and I believe that it will be somewhere between $6,000 to $10,000. You don't know from FEMA what they're going to get back with you when they get back to you, what they approved, until you actually get the check. And so there's still one other. There were 3 FEMA grants. We received monies for 2. And that since 2017 was when the work was done and then finally submitted. The $17,021, I just wanted to draw your attention to that's actually a building sales, and that's the Draco. Sales of goods, everything under sales of goods came from the rail bikes. That's the only retail store that we ran, was just the rail bike store. We still have ticket refunds listed here. Now, the ticket refunds, the $16,916 of ticket refunds, those were for the Polar Express. And that came from, that should be offset under our deferred payments that we received for this year. It wasn't a budgeted expense. The remaining balance of that, we did have some cancellations with the rail bikes because of weather and smoke. And the way that, but the good news is, when you look at this, the majority of our tickets, we converted them into gift cards. So it could have been a much, much larger refund of tickets. But again, the people are great, and a lot of them allowed us to convert them into gift cards. I already went over the special event expenses with you and what they related to. The special events expenses for the rail bikes, those were for two of our events, the Spooky Rides and then the Bike and Hike. And the reason that I separated those was because of the split with Freedom Rail. It was a 40-60 split. We needed to make sure that our expenses were covered before we split the net. And that's why you see it there. Furniture and fixtures, now that was above what we had budgeted, but we purchased 2 large generators this year. And extension cords, we bought more floodlights. These are things that in the past we've rented. Now the V&T owns them. And they're good quality generators. We were lucky to even get them. They were selling so quickly. But now the V&T actually owns. And they're stored so that they won't be damaged until next year. The audit cost this year, I'll tell you, it was unusually high. It caught me off guard. It was $20,000. So that's something that I wanted to draw your attention to. Props and costumes, those are things that could be used for the Polar Express. And that you can see the totals there if you're following the totals. I'm sorry I didn't have it listed here on my notes. But those were unusually high, but those are all things that can be used, and they belong now to the V&T. But we did use them for our alternative event this year. The good news is much of the advertising and social media was covered by grant money. And you'll see that we'll receive $13,500 in grant reimbursements. And so that will show up here in the coming months. And then also, what else did we have? Oh, and then the adjustment with the ticket refunds, that puts us ahead $30,000. So the 170,000, it's about 200,000 is where we're sitting in the black. Again, just a reminder, probably not, odds are we're not running May or June trains. We have a lot of people that have been trying to book for Mother's Day and book for summer, but we've had to let them know right now it's gift cards only. We don't know what the future is going to bring us until everyone else knows. It hasn't been very active. You know, when we let people know that all we have to sell are gift cards, and then we're selling VIP tickets for Polar Express, but it's very quiet right now as far as in the ticket sales area. Before we spend a lot of money this year or commit to any big expenses, I recommend that we start working on that augmented budget so that our expenses don't beat us up by the time we get into May. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
No, I just make a couple of comments. Good job on the gift cards, repurposing the gift cards versus the refunds. And then on the CRF grants, which, Denny knows, there's no match on those, which I think worked well to our favor. And then I personally just found out yesterday that Travel Nevada Commission on Tourism is dropping a marketing grant program, $500,000, I think, Denny, correct me if I'm wrong, on Monday. And so there's going to be an opportunity. Now, those are matching funds, but a little different than the CRF grant. So might have an opportunity with some, it has to be expended by the end of June, but maybe we'll have an opportunity there, to tap in and do some applications as well. So, this is great. So, any commissioner comments, discussion?
Yeah, I do, Dave. Thank you.
Think?
One thing, audit, Elaine, you flagged that for, and I missed that earlier. Is some of that carryover from a different fiscal year?
No,
That's all this year?
it was all this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I will write a note and circle back and maybe find out
And-
why that's so much. That is a lot. No, I know we had some issue with a couple of years ago with a fiscal year, calendar year, combining some funds, and I know, but wow, that's a chunk of change.
We were 1,900 during that complicated year, which was fiscal year 19. And we spent 6 weeks just pulling everything apart and putting everything back together. But yeah, fiscal year 20, I'm not sure why it was so high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then second thing is, one of the things that we're working on here, and, this budget report has the percentages on it. Some of our stuff is seasonal. We pay it up front. Some of it we don't spend till later in the year. And I think it would be beneficial for especially the newer commissioners here to see a forecast leading up through June. So they kind of help us with the augmentation, help us with the, forecasting into next year as well. On any type of ending fund balance. Is that maybe something we can do, maybe even together? I have some suggestions over the next couple of weeks to get a little snapshot of where we are this fiscal year as a forecast going into next year. Because I think we're getting real close into budgeting right now, and that's going to be a very valuable piece to going into that.
Yes, and that'll be an interesting exercise because, a lot of that would be based on what we're running.
Right.
And the trains are one that I would just put them in the hopeful category of if this happens, then we'll spend this, but if it doesn't, we will not. We'll just focus on what we have now and not try to, forecast until we know for sure that we're going to have a season.
So what I'm hearing is maybe like a couple of different scenarios, then sort of the reality of the situation, but then if we could have the trains run and what that might look like, maybe is just a
Yeah,
couple.
just to give us a snapshot of where we're going to end this year. I
Yeah.
think it's important to, it's one of the tools that I use even in the Tourism Commission to start the next fiscal year. I got to know where I'm going to end. I got to kind of
Yeah.
forecast it. So any fund balance, do I got to augment what? And I think that's the first piece you got to put together.
And the augmenting the budget, that is where you pretty much, that's the forecast, to forecast the end, to the end of the year.
There we go, I got it. When we, whoa, freaky. When are you suggesting we submit that budget augmentation, or when do you want to bring that back in front of the commission? What's the kind of timeline that you have around that?
We could do it as early as March. It's not due until May, but it's getting everything, sifted out, getting all the refunds and the grant refunds, the monies that we're expecting. And I would like to know from this board as well, when we do, maybe we can make that decision in February. So March would be the better augmenting opportunity, because when we do receive that 200,000, do we want to put it in a set-aside fund? Do we want to use something to get us by this year? Something to put aside for next year just in case we need a safety net, but only to be used if we get into that particular predicament. Even though we're not running trains, we still have expenses. We got to keep the lights on. We still pay our permits. We still, yeah. We still, we're doing we're track maintenance.
maintenance,
We've got things that we generally have to pay. We have contractors that we still pay. So that's what I'll do, Danny, is I'll come back to you all with, these are our base expenses with running nothing. This is what the commission, or BUT Railway is obligated to each month. And then if we do this, these are these expenses. If we do this, these are these expenses. And at least we have an idea. And then if there are any surprise expenses, we need to know how to address those. But that's a
like
great
that.
idea.
Yeah, any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
For the record, Danny Dotson, and I will make a motion to approve the financial report as submitted by our executive director.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Any further discussion by the commission? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to number 10, for possible action, update on the Carson Canyon Rail Bike Agreement. Elaine?
Okay, so I've had 3 meetings with Freedom Rail out of New York, and we did go over all the different issues that we had last year, or things that we would request as far as the rail bike maintenance and upkeep. And yeah, we've come up with we're getting replacement parts, a stockpile of replacement parts, so we're not scrapping one of our existing bikes to maintain other bikes. But so part of that was a more robust brake system. There were going with the high top seats. There were the controllers on the bike. So we did have some things that did need to be updated or improved. They've been really good about that. They're already working and ordering the things to be shipped here, the items that need to be added to our current fleet to make them a more robust and maintenance-free type of investment. Now, that is their investment. We don't pay for those things. That is part of the partnership, is that they maintain and keep the bikes in good order. Also, part of our agreement was that we wanted a 15 bike fleet, and they're working on that. We should see those in June. So we'll start the season with 9, and then see it tick up to 15, and they'll start sending those out. With the management, a lot of the management last year and the business startup was your general manager doing a lot of that. And, we started with the business plan. They adopted it. We followed it. I was there for nearly every ride, or staff was there for was there for every ride. And we watched over things very closely. Now, this next season, they may not need that much direction and oversight. They might be able to handle some of that themselves. So next month, I'll bring to you another proposal with their thoughts, and maybe bring them to the meeting, and then we can talk about going forward. But it was good. It was good that we were involved as much as we were this year. And as you all know, it was a $200,000 rail bike season. If we do the rail bikes, one of our discussions was a schedule. And Angie and I went through it, took the day, went through a feasible schedule that included startups in maybe April on the weekends, and slow April, May, then ticking it up into June, and then full on July, August, September. What a difference. It's 134 rides when you do that. And that many days. The percentage that this commission will see, or their share, will, it'll be good. It will be really good for the commission. And plus, we don't have as much startup expense. Part of the grant money that was received was a VIP grant, or a project grant.
PRT, probably.
PRT?
Related to tourism.
Yeah,
right?
PRT grant. And it paid for the crossings. the passenger crossings so that they could safely get off the rail bikes and across to the other side. So the liability was less, for all of us. And Gabe did a great job. There are 3 crossings. That was all paid for by the state. And so those things and the little bit of investment that we put into it this year to get it started, overall, we won't see that next year. Plus, we're going to see a larger season, again, bringing more revenue to the V&T Railway Commission.
No, that's great, Elaine. I'm looking forward to getting the rail bikes off the ground. I also just worry a little bit, the maintenance side that we saw, that was starting in August, right? And then ending probably November 1st. So hopefully they'll keep an eye on that, because now we're starting in April, even though I realize it might be more limited, but that's a lot of wear and tear before we even get to August 1st. But I think with the adjustments that we previously talked about with them, hopefully we'll have that under control. Quick question, then I'll open it up to the rest of the commission. The rail bike, so in April, we'll start with 9. Does that mean maybe May we might go 12 or incrementally, and then June is the 15? Okay.
Well, no, so let me correct myself. That is, it's 9 up until June.
9 up until
June is when
Okay.
we'll see the other 7 bikes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And they're working on buying their own motor car as
Oh,
well.
excellent.
Once the trains are introduced back to the tracks, we'll be talking about switches or derailers, mobile, what are they? Mobile? Derails. 2 derails.
Okay. And for today, what you would like from the commission is permission to move forward and work on a new lease agreement for this upcoming season, I guess. More or
To
less,
bring
yeah.
something
To bring
back to the
something back
board
to
at
us,
the
yeah.
next commission meeting that
Okay.
can be discussed with rail events, or, I'm sorry, Freedom Rail.
Yeah,
being
and I would like
present.
them to be, at least come on the webinar, at the very least. I think that'd be great. So I'll open up for discussion by my fellow commissioners. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion on this item. Don't all
I can be designated motion guy if you want.
take turns, we can share.
Whatever works. This is Clay Mitchell, and I make a motion to instruct staff to work with Freedom Rail Bikes to come back with an agreement for this next season.
I'll second that.
Motion. Thank you, Denny. Second. Any public comment, Desi?
I see no public comment, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion by the commission? With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 11 for possible action. A progress report on the engine number 18 overhaul and purchase orders for projects over 5,000. Elaine?
We have Tom Gray on the phone. Tom, are you still with us? Tom? Okay.
Desi, can you confirm that Tom's on the phone?
Tom, can you hear us?
So I do have an email from Tom. It was just a nice surprise that he was able to make the meeting today, but he had no report and no invoices,
Oh, okay.
which is understandable since.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see no need for any action then on this item. So, all right, with that, thank you, Elaine. Let's move on to agenda item number 12 for possible action. Track maintenance report and purchase orders for projects over 5,000. A, track maintenance report by Gabe Williamson. Sorry. B, track and bridge inspection report and recommendations by Ken Hanford of Hanford Consulting LLC. So, Elaine, are you going to start us, or where do we want to go?
Yes, and in fact, I'll have, let's have Kent go ahead and do the report.
Okay.
Is that good? So that, because then the maintenance portion of it, Ashley will come from that. We haven't had any really maintenance since the middle of November.
Excuse me,
so-
Mr. Chair.
Go to Kent.
Yes, Desi.
Tom is having problems with his audio. He did send me a message that says the 18 is in service as of September 19, 2020, and the federal Form 5 has been filed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Thank
good
you, Tom.
news.
I'm not sure if you can or cannot hear us, but thank you. Thank you, Desi.
Good afternoon. My name is Kent Hanford. There you go. Again, my name is Kent Hanford, and I performed the annual inspections for all of the track facilities with the exception of the track. So everything outside of the rail is something I look at. I've been doing this inspection for, I believe, about 7 years now. I'd previously worked with Kindor to perform all those inspections. So I just continued on this year. With my experience before I'd done the inspection, I'd also been the construction manager for the last couple phases that took us down across Highway 50 and south into the canyon. So a little bit of background with the project. For those of you that haven't maybe seen this before, every year Gabe escorts me up the track, and we start at the very southern end of it, and we take it clear up to Gold Hill. And I look at every aspect, all the drainage features, all the structures, the bridge, the tunnel, retaining walls, all the earth and embankment, all the cut slopes, all the wire mesh, every single feature that is something that was constructed at one point to allow the train to operate. So following that, I prepare my report. It's been broken down into the different categories, so you can kind of focus on each individual item if you choose, and then I provide the summary of kind of the general assessment, and overall of the health of the facilities. So I've prepared that. I believe that everybody's been provided a copy of that to look through and start to understand some of what goes into it, along with my recommendations of where I think the focus should be moving forward. A lot of these areas that we look at, they're kind of our repeat offenders. We have some areas, it's the nature of the soils typically that kind of dictates the performance in certain areas, and it's what requires some of the maintenance. Some of the couple of items in here specifically related to track safety are items that we've been looking at installing for a while. Previously, my understanding, just the funds weren't there to do it. Hopefully moving forward at some point, we'd be allowed to do so, and it would be a benefit to the operations. So I don't know if we have any questions or if portions of it would like to discuss. I'm open to questions, certainly.
Thank you, Kent, and I'm sorry for calling you Ken.
That's
I
right.
was reading verbatim, and
I've
there's missing
been-
T on there, so.
Yeah, and I've been
forgive me,
working
yes,
around that for
insulting you,
years and
yes.
years,
You-
so.
You should have been a Ken, not a Kent. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just want to ask a question, and then I'll open it up to the commission. On page 1, the December 22nd, which is about the bridge, it talks about every 2 years NDOT performs a structural inspection. Are we anticipating then, I guess, that there would be another one this June? Is that the
Yes, that's
plan
correct.
there? Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And
that's
they-
my initial question, and then I'll open it up to the commission for discussion. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you. Hi, Kent. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for the reports because I felt they were very thorough, and being new on the commission, it was very helpful to have that detailed information, to have the pictures. I think that was great. I just wanted to make a comment, a point of clarification. So in both reports, I think it mentioned Carson City Public Works doing some of the touch-up paint. So I did check into that. We certainly want to help where we can, but what I learned is that initially when we did we changed the lights. We used our signal trucks to do that the first time around, decided it wasn't really the best way to do it. And so we've actually hired a contractor to do the light changes since then and are glad to continue to do so. But unfortunately, what that means is our staff's not out there to do the painting at the same time. And since we have an electrician or an electrical contractor doing the lights, they wouldn't also do the painting. So if there's a need for the painting, then that's something we should probably factor into the other maintenance expenses because we wouldn't be able to do that for you. So just wanted to note that. And again, we will continue to do the lights, not a problem. We have factored that into the budget, but the painting is something we don't have factored and we would have to have a contractor do it.
Good to know. And just one thing, kind of, it might, and again, I've been involved with the track operations for quite a while. And we've always just tried to get the very most out of the dollars we had available. One idea, going back to the biannual inspection that's coming up this year, one of the probably the most expensive aspect of going and doing a simple little touch-up on the bridge is the traffic control. So this year, possibly, and again, the agencies have always been very cooperative, working with us and working together. Possibly when they do the inspection this year, it might be an opportunity to address some of that painting while they have all their traffic control in place. So it's just an idea.
Sure.
Great idea.
Moving forward, something that we might be able to coordinate.
And I think that's a great idea and a good suggestion, and we can look at that moving forward. In fact, our Public Works Director said the exact same thing. He said the biggest expense when it comes to doing anything on the bridge is traffic control. So if there's a way we can maybe, take care of several things at one time, that would be great.
Yeah,
So-
they've been the same inspector for NDOT's been doing this for quite a while too. So they've just always been great to work with. So
Great.
I think we should be able to figure that out if that's something we want to pursue.
Perfect.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, great idea. Is that just definitely coordinating with NDOT and Public Works and us and kind of everybody has a schedule?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And you can keep me in the loop or contact me directly. That would be fine.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, I agree with Stephanie. I like the reports. I thought they were very thorough, so very nice job. Clay or Denny, any comments?
No, thank you.
There we go. You guys are awesome. You guys do a lot. We've had a lot of changes in the 4 or 5 years. And we've streamlined a lot of things. And I appreciate how much you guys, being we've been limited on our funds and had to delay certain projects, you guys find a way to keep us up and running. But one question I had is, and I know you guys do talk to Tom Gray a lot, but how much do you guys, when you guys are looking at these kind of projects, do we work with Tom, the operator? Does he mention things to us, issues? Is there a communication between you guys on that? Or is any way that we can improve that process if he's not involved? Because I think that's an important piece of this, is making sure that we're all on the same page. So we're not one guy's doing one thing and one guy's doing something else, and wait a minute, can we work together to synchronize some stuff?
When trains are running, Tom does tell me about issues. Oh, crap. When trains are running, Tom tells me about issues. But as far as his guys working on the track versus me, I usually work on the track, and if I need to borrow something or he needs to borrow something for his track, one of the tools or something, we're more than capable of working with each other, and we rent equipment from him all the time. So, yeah, I'm willing to work with Tom anytime.
That's great. Yeah, no, I guess it's one of those things of being a regional product. We got Virginia City, Carson City, and there's no county line. Okay,
Yeah.
This is all of us. And I think the more we can find ways to work together, I think we'll be successful. And that's what I would like to see as we move forward. So I
Yeah.
appreciate all you guys do. I know it's not easy, especially with the weather and whatnot. And when our funds were tight, we had to cut a lot of stuff back that should have been done, I know. So appreciate you guys coming today.
Not a problem. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm Gabe Williman.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Commissioners, Gabe is our regular maintenance contractor, and we have a contract with him that right now is going month to month. We did renegotiate, we put it together prior to when we knew the trains weren't going to happen. So I'd like to bring that back to the board
So
as
now
well.
it's gonna go up 10,000%.
That wasn't the
Why not?
negotiation.
Slide the decimal.
But also, with having Kent here, Kent with a T, Ken with a T is Kent. Let's just I'd like to get the board's opinion on the recommended track maintenance. And then Kent, would you please explain, the guardrail, as you did to me this morning, what exactly that is? And then also working with and monitoring the Overman embankment.
We're talking about the guardrails.
Yeah, again, so Kent Hanford, again, we'd been discussing this morning, what are these guardrails? And most certainly, as far as most people know, a guardrail, it's what's along the highway to keep people on the road. So in this case, it's a similar function, but all it is taking a track rail and putting it in between the existing rails. And it's to keep the train upright on the track should you ever have a derailment. So, kind of by comparison, the Silverton Durango, we're back, outside of, or in Colorado, most of that track operates along the river with fairly steep slopes, embankments, running the entire stretch. Nearly their entire stretch has this guardrail placed in the middle of their operating tracks to assure that the trains stay on top of that and they don't have any accidents. So the two areas that I brought up, that I mentioned in my report, were the area just east of the tunnel over the Chinese Wall and in the Overman Pit. And it'd be from the north to south end of the Overman Pit embankment there. It's something that's been recommended for a while. It would be, I think, a great benefit from a safety standpoint to put those in. It's something that Gabe could do. So it's essentially in-house. We haven't looked at it. I haven't looked at it in a while. But I believe we may even still have a lot of the materials
Yeah, we
that
have.
you would need.
Yeah, we have most of the materials already.
Yeah, so relatively speaking, it would be simple, economical to accomplish, and again, a big benefit. But yeah, what it is simply having the way they're constructed. Also, for those of you that have been up across the bridge, we have the guardrails across the bridge that goes over Highway 50. It'd be the exact same structure, just right down the middle of the tracks. And again, it's just to catch a wheel should you have a derailment. So that's the one item. Excuse me. And then the Overman Pit, again, we're starting to see movement in that embankment, and we have really since it was constructed. It's naturally consolidating. There are other factors a little beyond a natural settlement of an embankment or a large earth fill. With the mining history throughout there are different influences that are causing that entire embankment to settle. Gabe has been managing it by just adding base underneath the track and the ties to keep it at grade, but the earth continues to settle. So at one point, we had been monitoring it with a surveyor. So the surveyor came out, set typically some pieces of rebar all along the top of the slope, and then he would come out on whatever schedule it was, maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Maybe more frequent, and actually shoot it in, with his surveying instrument to see where it was horizontally and vertically, so that we could track kind of each segment of that embankment to see what it was doing and maybe more importantly, how quickly it was doing it. So I think that at one point, 2014, I believe it was, that we'd made some repairs. There were a couple issues with the slope on the north side of it, where some of the reinforcement for the retaining wall had only been constructed into kind of the center of the embankment. And so from side to side, we were seeing some settlement worse on one side than the other. So once that was repaired and that section quit moving, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at that point, I think the monitoring ceased because it probably was believed that the issue had been resolved. So now still, it continually moves. I don't think it will ever stop. And I'm not a geotechnical engineer. Based on my history, though, it's going to continue to move. And now we're seeing more settlement in a different area than it had previously been seen. So, again, my recommendation is that we bring somebody in to begin monitoring that. We're really fortunate. Gary Luce is a geotechnical engineer. He's also a geologist who's been involved with this project for
Since the beginning.
probably 30 years, going on 30 years. So he's either been responsible for the design work as it relates to the soils, or he's overseen and guided the people that were doing the work. And then following up, he would provide all the observation throughout construction. Very knowledgeable individual, but also all the history. And so it's few and far between that you kind of come across a situation where you have somebody that's able to contribute like he could. So, my opinion, a fairly relatively inexpensive cost to have him come in, develop the plan, and then oversee it. And it's getting some eyes on an area that we know we have an issue with, and we just need to stay on top of it to make sure we're never surprised. It's going to continue moving. Again, it'd be really good to know how it's moving, how quickly it's moving.
And Kent, you said the last time that this was actually surveyed was 2014.
I believe so. Don't quote me on that one, but it has been a
Plus
little
years
bit.
later. Okay,
I know there's nobody presently doing any monitoring on it.
okay. And so that $3,500, that annual cost, that might be something, Elaine, where we'd do a contract, I guess, potentially with that fellow. And then what does that all entail? I mean, does he go out there on a monthly basis or quarterly, or how does that all, just kind of explain that, I guess. How that works.
Generally speaking, he's gonna look at, probably the first thing he'd do would be a site visit and kind of see where it's been. Again, he's very familiar, so based on what he sees, that would determine the frequency of the monitoring. I would expect him to start somewhere around, every 6 months, monitoring the points, going out on site, seeing what it's doing, taking pictures, and kind of building a new file of how that embankment's moving.
Yeah.
And if need be, he would increase the frequency of the monitoring. If it's really not moving that quickly, he may decrease it, so.
And if we, I mean, probably this is a new start, right, base, and we don't go back and look at 2014, right? I mean,
He would try
probably-
to.
Oh, would he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he would try. I don't know what is still out there on the slope.
There's still,
anything.
there's still rebar
Okay.
on, some of it you might have to dig to get to.
If there's something out there, that had been there previously, then we would try and utilize that, most certainly. The surveyor that was a part of it is still in the area, so I would try and track them down, put them back together and see what we can piece together from before, but it'd be good background information, but it's not essential to where it's heading from here.
No, thank you, Kent, yeah. Thank you, Gabe. Any comments by the commissioners?
I just had one question. So I'm looking at the guardrail and the ditch cleaning. Are those things that we think we can do in-house? And those are a one-time thing?
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
then,
the ditch cleaning we'll probably have to do, we do it almost every year. And if we don't do it, the cost grows exponentially. Each year we don't do it, ditches get filled up. You know, especially when we're on a crazy slope and all the ditches, you know, are right next to rock that's moving. Gravity's always working against us. So digging out ditches is something that we should do every year just to keep the ditches clean. It's the same on the side of the highway, you know, you pick up trash one day, there's gonna be trash there the next.
Yeah. So are we anticipating needing to do some catch up or a more major overhaul and then maintenance after that? Is that, help me understand just kind of what the thought is there.
We're still playing catch up from a long time ago, but we've got it pretty well handled as long as we keep on it. If we don't keep on it, we'll have to start all over again, like we did after the big mudslides and all that stuff. So, and that's the other thing. We could make it look pristine, you know, and we could have these beautiful ditches and everything. If we have, you know, in February, 20 feet of snow followed by 20 days of rain, all those ditches are going to go to crap. We're just going to get mudslides. And that's the bummer thing about it. But it's one of those FRA regulations, that's the Federal Railroad Administration's regulations, is you have to have your ditches clean and clear obstructions. It's kind of a bummer.
And there are different segments along the tracks that perform much worse than others. Just the nature of the material that's alongside. But, you know, there's really two tasks. They're originally designed to convey water, which there are several sections that don't. And I mentioned in there, if we did see rain, you know, typical Nevada, well, it doesn't rain here. Well, but when it does, so some of these ditches are not going to convey anything, and that water is going to just wash right across the roadbed. And then you're going to have a track that's sagging, and the expenses increase. If we could work to just get at least some ditch capacity back into some of these areas, I think it would help, and it would avoid, you know, some future issues. But the second part of it, and I think equally as important, is some of these ditches, aside from being drainage structures, they also provide a rock catchment. You know, a lot of areas, a lot of our slopes, we have a wire mesh over the top of them to control that rock fall. But some of them we don't, and even sometimes the rocks still get away. But several of these areas, there is no ditch section for a rock to land in. It's full, and it's a slope from the native slope out to the tracks. It's more of, it's more of a slide than a catchment.
So we could have rocks, and we often do have rocks. Usually they're small football size or soccer ball size rocks roll onto our track bed. And, you know, during inspections, we throw those off. But we've had a couple of times where is rocks as big as this table, and we had to get out there with jackhammers and break them out so the train doesn't hit them and derail. You know, that's one thing about these ditches. It does help that, you know, it won't help a Volkswagen size boulder from going on the thing, but all the smaller stuff that could and will create a havoc if it does get on the track, it stops those for the most part.
So I guess what I'm just trying to get an understanding of what, you know, what the need is in immediately and equipment involved, cost involved, and then what can we expect ongoing just to keep it up, you know? And I mean, somewhere between Cadillac and Yugo, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a tough one. I mean, a few years back, we did a major one, and it held up for a while, you know, but it's every year we got to keep on going. You know, it's you can't just replace an engine in a car and say it's good for forever. You got to keep on oil maintenance and stuff like that. And that's the same thing here.
And I think, I don't know if you'd had a chance to look at my report, but I'd put a budget number in there for the ditch cleaning. And that is really a number to get you somewhere, between that Cadillac and the Yugo. It's something to get, again, some capacity back in there. It's not a thorough cleaning. We're not restoring it to its, originally constructed glory, but it addresses the issues reasonably to this point. And I think that's a somewhat reasonable number to use for budgeting on an annual basis. Hopefully it's a little bit high, but again, you just never know. It depends on the weathering that you see. And at some point, the slopes are going to wear clear down to where, yes, you won't have any maintenance anymore because the slope's gone. But that will quite possibly be after we're long gone, so.
So the 25K, Gabe, and you may not have seen that in our packet for the ditch cleaning, 25,000. That may not be spent though right away, right? That's all of this work, right? Which may take, I don't know, months to do, or would
Yeah.
that be spent before June 30th? I don't know, Clay, if that's where you're going. What are we looking to allocate for this fiscal year, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Or Elaine, you may want
It
to
could-
jump in there.
Oh. Jump in here, especially for the new commissioners. When Gabe is our rail inspector, and he goes out twice before every train. So, and he does light maintenance in between every train, every rail bike ride. Once a week, he's out there. So he does that maintenance, the cleanup. This is more of a major seasonal expense, but we also have a contract with Gabe. He and his men take their high rail out, and they clean up and look for those, rocks that have slid, and then also, some of the slough off. So we do maintain our rail on a weekly basis, especially for running. The cost and what we're proposing here is the major cleanup.
And Elaine, to be done before the end of this fiscal year.
Before we run trains.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
it-
Denny, yeah.
Yeah.
The rail bikes, we might have to do a little,
Sure.
but before we can run a train.
And Elaine, and maybe we can clarify for the new board members as well how this is budgeted. If I'm not mistaken, we have this under two different line items. If you look in our back in our expenses, you actually have track maintenance, which we did at 13,000. That is just hard cost. We also have professional services listed in there. If we were to break out professional, I believe for additional repairs, it would go to wages and whatnot. So there's the total budget number would be, I'm not sure what, I don't remember what the number is, but I know just maintenance itself is 13,000, but there's professional services built in too, right?
It's about anywhere between 68,000, 75,000. But it is there's a lot to do with that, and that covers us as far as maintenance, minor, medium type issues. But that's our contract with Gabe, and you are correct. It's under professional services, under a contract. And that's how we budget it each year. And then also track maintenance. A lot of that has to do with the things that we have to purchase, dealing with a project. And that's where the two combined is anywhere between 68,000 to 75,000 annually.
And a lot of this is included within, some of this is included within that
No,
budget. This is all outside of that budget,
that's outside that budget.
which it probably should not be.
No, these are our inspection.
Some of these that are done annually should be done should be put in our budget.
Yes, yes.
Elaine, when you're away from the microphone, you're not getting picked up on the recording.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. So, yes, so of course, the monitoring is something new. The track ditch cleaning using equipment. Yeah, at that cost, that is, renting equipment is quite expensive. We do rent from Tom when we do this type of cleanup. But there are crews. Gabe's crews go out and do this work. But some of this other stuff, like the installing of the guardrail over at the Overman embankment and the Chinese wall, we've been talking about that for a few years. Well, since I've been with B&T, we've been talking about, that's one of those projects. So this expense right here has always been on a, Ken Dorr used to give us this list of his wish list and then his maintenance list. This is part of that. And that's what's recommended by our inspector.
So just on Denny's point, we would need to augment the budget for this 46,000 this fiscal year if we were to expend by June 30, or build
be
it
split.
into, or we could split it, or, yeah, and then build part of it into the budget. I agree with you about when we know they're annual, then it's a part of our, I'll say base budget, but yeah, I'm with you there.
And here's the other thing. Some days, we go out and we dig ditches for, or some years we go out and dig ditches for 5 days. Other years we go out and dig ditches for 9 days. I only charge what I work. I don't think, okay, well, we got 25,000 to spend, let's spend it, because I really care about this commission and I want it to succeed. So we try to do most as we can with as little as possible.
Is there a recommended priority? If we were to look at including some in a budget augmentation for this fiscal year versus FY '22, would you have a recommended prioritization of what we should?
Between those items or within
Yeah,
each of those?
because
Denny, how do you
there's,
feel about that?
It is all important, I know it is, and I don't think overall it's not a lot of money. I think that you look at that's kind of why I always like to look at our projection for the end of the year to see where we might end. Right now, we're tracking pretty good, but I know there's a lot of revenue that's not going to be realized. So as our expenses go the rest of the year, it's going to shorten that considerably. We also got a little money from the Draco thing comes through that would
It
cover
does,
that. So
yeah.
I think it's important, if we want to run some trains and do some things, we need to look at doing some of this
Yeah,
stuff.
and I'm a big proponent to not getting behind on maintenance. A deferred maintenance situation, and it costs us twice as much or 3 times or 4 times as much on the back end. Stephanie?
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to add a couple of things, and some of them are questions, and some might just be clarification of that I'm new and need the information. But I think that with us talking about those budget projections, and that was something we were talking about maybe being brought forward next month, right? So I think, my opinion is, I would feel more comfortable reviewing these costs with that projection, not necessarily approving the expenditures for these today. That's my opinion. But I also, a couple of things that I think about when I'm looking at this, and again, because I don't have that back information, is exactly where and who's getting paid for these tasks and how that fits into the existing contracts. So I haven't seen those existing contracts. So knowing that there is a monthly payment that goes out for the monthly maintenance and we're adding $25,000 on top of that, is that within the existing contract that we currently have? So some of those just pieces of information, I think, to be brought with these items would be really helpful for those of us that are new, so that we know we're approving things within the constructs of the contract.
Right. So let me clarify, Gabe's contract is not a retainer. He only gets paid for the work he does, and it's generally seasonal. And so this is, these projects right here, some of them will need to be done before we start the season. Part of it could, and weather needs to be weather permitting.
yeah, we don't want to try to dig ditches when it's frozen. We're just fighting frozen ground, and we're wasting money then.
I can tell you the majority of this is going to be in our fiscal '22 budget.
Yeah, I mean,
It would be,
yeah,
yes.
no matter how much I want the money now, digging ditches now would be just ludicrous. It'd have to be in the spring or when the ground's thawed. And if we have to do it during the week, and we're running trains on the weekend, so be it. I mean, we've done it every other year that way, and it's not an issue that way. And that's with most of the maintenance, unless we're really ripping out track, we do it during the week while trains aren't running. I mean, it's,
There are other things that, say if we did start running before July 1st, running trains, yeah, we'd have to get out there and clean up the crossings,
yep,
clean out there's general startup maintenance, and that's would be Gabe's focus, along with some of the, the cleaning. But it would be during those, the months, July, August, September, if we're not running trains, this would be ideal to get these projects completed finally. We've been putting this off for at least a couple of years that I'm aware of.
No, I like Stephanie's suggestion and Denny on the budget, and maybe for the I don't know that we want to make a super long February agenda, but I do like the idea of seeing what we can do without increasing the budget augmentation even more than we're potentially talking about. But I would want to make sure that that 200,000 plus the 1,700 is coming in, before we maybe start.
And it was actually
Divvying that up.
March is when
Oh,
I
at the March
proposed
meeting.
coming back with
I'm
the
sorry, that's right.
projections, only because
Yeah.
you'll be making a lot of decisions in February that will impact those projections, including the agreement with the rail bikes, with Freedom Rail, and knowing when the reimbursements start coming in. What if we get that FEMA? That additional FEMA money. There are things that'll be happening in February that'll make it, I'll just be changing things in March if we don't see them all coming in February. So I could actually, I can do a projection and be working on it in March and letting you all keep you aware of what's coming in, what's happening.
I think that would be great. I mean, I'm all for that. I think we all agree these are super important things. It's just a question of taking a look at where we think we're going to be at the end of '22, or at the same time, a month later, we have to submit a tentative budget to the state for fiscal '22, and maybe we can work this between the two fiscal years, just kind of spread that cost out, maybe, is what I think I'm hearing from my
and
colleagues, so.
another thing I'd like to say is for the new commissioners and the existing commissioners, anytime you want to go up the track, I have a truck that drives on the track, and I would love it if you guys came with me. So instead of just this abstract idea, well, we need to clean this ditch, you could actually see it. You could actually see what you're involved in, and like feel connected. Because you could talk about something on paper all day long, but when you actually see it with your eyes and see, oh, okay, yeah, this is the Chinaman's Wall, and oh, this is the Oberman Pit, and actually see that and understand, like, okay, well, yeah, if a train goes over here, it'd be bad, and but not only that, but enjoy the beauty at a slow, easy pace without some conductor in your ear spouting off historical facts.
About the history of Virginia City?
And it not that that's bad. I mean, people love it, and thank God they do, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. But
And you'll let them drive.
yeah, I'll even let you drive.
I didn't get to drive.
You could drive.
I had to sit in the back of the pickup truck. I mean, I didn't even make it in with Stan.
Well,
Yeah,
now-
I wasn't the chair then. Oh, wait, now I can
Yeah,
sit.
now you're in the chair.
This is
You're the
great.
head
Oh my
honcho.
gosh, I'm driving. No,
But
I
yeah.
think that's a great, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
anytime you guys want to, and unless there's 3 feet of snow on the track, because then the truck doesn't like to stay on the track. But anytime you guys want to, and as many times as you guys want to, because I do while we're running trains, I do 2 inspections a week. One's a very light maintenance, the other one's a maintenance inspection, and so that's twice a week, every week while we're running trains. I have plenty of space, plenty of time for anybody that wants to hop on.
Wonderful. I'll bring my camera phone if I see Stephanie picking up big boulders and moving them off the tracks. I'll take some pictures. So,
And if Denny gets some tags, he could, for this area, he could scout.
We won't put that on YouTube or anything.
No.
The best way to understand the guardrails is to go.
Kent, you'll have to come back
Yeah,
up, sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
The best way to understand the installation of the guardrails is to go look at those locations,
Yeah.
and you won't have any more questions.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good.
And
Wonderful.
with this, Chairman
Yes.
Peterson, if we, we can discuss this and then bring it back so that I can explain what Gabe and I could meet. We could explain to you then what could take place and when, and this is the projected maintenance for this year, and then the rest of this could be
I like
into
that idea.
next fiscal
Let's have a
year.
schedule and put the costs around it, yeah, between now and
Gabe
June
and I
30.
meet at least once a week,
Okay.
and, when trains are running.
Yeah.
Does the rest of commission agree with that approach? So we'll kind of table this one and
Yeah.
ask Elaine to come back.
Is there a need to accept this report, or can we just let it hang?
Should on.
Let
What's
it
the
hang.
cost again?
Yeah, because we're not going to approve any. Mike, do you agree? We'll just let this one go to next month. Michael, can you hear us?
But I had it on mute, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Just make a motion to continue it to the next regular board meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make that motion. I don't want to be greedy, though, so feel free to cut me off if you want. I'm not going to have my feelings hurt. But for the record, Clay Mitchell, I will move to continue this item till our next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Wonderful. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any public comment? Any further discussion from the commission? that?
The expense related to this inspection is at the level that I can approve.
Perfect.
Good.
So if no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Gabe. Really appreciate the detail, so good work on that. All right, moving on to item 13, for possible action, discussion and possible action for a strategic business plan for the V&T Railway Commission. Discuss and approve an agreement with Linda Ritter Consulting to perform proposed services of compiling data, facilitating a workshop, and writing a proposed plan based on input of the V&T Commission. Elaine.
Okay, we started discussing a strategic business plan or strategic plan, long-term planning for the V&T Railway back, Denny, was it September? We were trying to get it onto the agenda, and we pushed it. And then finally the holidays hit, so we pushed it a little longer. January was what we determined would be the time to approach discussing the workshop. And most of you are familiar with Linda Ritter Consulting. She's done work for Carson City and for Story County. I've known Linda for more than 21 years. And so I reached out to her, knowing what her capabilities were and what her knowledge of the two counties and the V&T Railway. She has a lot of knowledge in those and history in the area. So the idea was to compile just for the board's information so that you're aware of what are the capital assets of the V&T Railway. What are the value of those assets? What is all included? Not many people know that the V&T Railway Commission actually owns land in Gold Hill. And a lot of these, I ran into a lot of information just by happenstance or, just having discussions with people. And I thought, it'd be great if we could just compile all this and have it on record. Operations, again, the revenue that we generate, where our money comes from, how it's expended, those are things I'd really like the board to understand that at a full level of being responsible for the ultimate responsibility of this commission is the financial well-being of the V&T Railway Commission or the V&T Railway. And so the more information you have and we can dissect, like, for example, this inspection, and things that come maybe every other year, we wouldn't know that until they were happening. So that's so that we can have everything recorded. I've also asked her to look at our finances for the last 5 years, and we're going to bring everything, all the records, into one location, and then also get them into the cloud so that they're available for many years to come. Right now, I really have no idea where all of our records are from the previous commission. I would love to be able to go out and send letters and say, hey, if you have something, can we please keep that or get have it returned so that, that those files belong to the V&T. Governance, the structure of the commission, it was new and revised back in 2017, right?
Yes.
2017, knowing the terms, knowing the responsibilities, and looking at SB 57 and determining what type of guidance that gives us as a commission. I know there's been a lot of questions. And so looking at, after discussing this with Linda, I will be her sidekick. I know a lot of this information. I can bring it. We can work together to compile it. You see, it's only 30 hours of research. That's me working with her. And then the workshop preparation, bad word for me today, and then facilitation. That, too, is building up to the workshop that Denny and I were discussing, bringing everyone to the table and having a workshop where we can do long-term planning and also, looking at some of those, the original plan of the V&T Railway. Is the plan still to extend the track, or are we happy with what we have? Those are things that this commission needs to make those decisions. And then to compile it all and put it into writing. This, for $6,800, I believe, is a very good deal. It's something that the commission could be proud of, an accomplishment during a COVID year, that you put it all into an accessible bank of information. We haven't had that. I've been working on it for the past 3 years, but there's still a lot of voids.
No, I think this is beneficial. I mean, it would help me as well. I only came on in August last year, but I think for the new commissioners as well, just to get it'd be nice to have a full picture, I guess, it's something I could certainly benefit from. So I thank you for talking to Linda and pulling this together. I agree. I think on price, yeah, it's not a bad price at all. Just having been involved in other business planning or strat planning, this is a very good deal, relatively speaking, in terms of what we've paid in the past, when I work for the state for these types of plans. So I'll open it up for commissioner discussion. Stephanie?
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'm very excited about this project. I think that it, being one of the new ones, this will be very helpful as we move forward on the commission and with planning. Just for the record, I know you and I discussed, so it's 30 hours of time, but it should be completed within, I think you said, about the next month. Is that
Right.
correct?
Well, it's 30 hours for each section.
Oh, for each section.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
there are three. And she's available now. So we can start working on these things. I can schedule that into, what I'm doing now. My general management work schedule. And it's something that I have a lot of that information, but it's here. Or I can find it and I know where to pull it from. So with the timeline would be February. So that we could have a budget workshop. We did it in March in the past.
If we did, it was probably early in the year so that we could formulate some budgets and stuff, I think. So it probably was in February or March.
Yeah, March, I remember the March meeting at the chamber, but we were void of a lot of information back then. So that was the timeline is tight, but we can do this working together. bring you something so that we can have some type of a March workshop, and that would be in addition, because you all have a lot of spare time, right?
Only Denny has spare time.
But something in March to
Okay.
put a special workshop so that you can approve it. And this would be something that this commission could be proud of.
But you would come back, Linda could do a presentation at the February meeting based on, is that what you're kind of thinking, or March?
No, we need to get going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll have something in
Oh.
February, or you could submit something to us in the meantime, just so we can be,
I think we were
seeing
going to
what's going on.
present that at the workshop.
oh, okay, well, that's fine too.
Yes.
But, okay, so just let me clarify, when would the workshop take place? Because you're right, I would want this to help us be informed for the budget. So is that in March? We think we could do a workshop? separate
Like
from-
mid-March,
In March?
based on everybody's schedules.
Sure.
As being,
Okay,
your own committees and groups.
go ahead, Denny.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna, and Elaine, you had sent out an additional attachment for this meeting. That was, I think you're gonna report on in your general manager's report. In my opinion, that item would directly impact some of our decisions making right now. And I think maybe if we might wanna skip to that item and then come back to this, just because I think there's a bigger picture here that we might wanna, that may involve this whole thing. And I think this decision is, warrants having all the information.
Okay, I agree.
Okay, so, yeah, agreed, Denny. So having said that, let's move on from 13 and go to 14 for discussion only.
And that's the general
General
managers?
manager's report.
Okay.
And then if we need to, Denny, we can come back to 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course.
Yes, and as some of you know, I've been worried about the fact that without the trains, how much of my attention did you really truly need? And I didn't want to be a financial burden on the VNT. I do have a company. I'm not your employee. I'm a contractor providing you general management services. So also my contract ends March 31st. There's an opportunity to extend that existing contract for 2 years. I've opted, via my letter that you've all received, I've opted not to renew that contract. And so the impact would be, yes, there would be a lot of work between February and March. Never shied away from a lot of work and getting things accomplished. So it was a decision. I know that it's going to be a lot to do in 2 months, but I'm confident that I can do that. And I also believe that this type of a study or analysis and then the workshop would help you all going forward. And that's, that was my decision. Also, as you know, Zephyr Communications, even though it wasn't part of our contract after I originally began my service to you all, it was evident you didn't have a staff. And so I went out and built a staff. And based on season, they come in and out. And for example, Angie is part of my staff. And they, of course, I'm not sure how you'd want to handle that, but they would no longer be at your service based on they're my employees. So that's, there's been a lot of thought and discussion involved in this decision, but I do need to also take a little bit of that pressure off of all of you. And then I can go out and find additional clients. I've had additional clients throughout 3 years, and there are other opportunities, but I'm going to continue with Zephyr Communications and continue doing contract work.
Oh, I'm sad.
Yeah. So there it is.
Knowing that, Denny.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't mean to jump the gun there. I just thought that was very important that we have an open, honest
Yeah.
transparent conversation, and that's really what we all need to do. And you've been a wonderful asset, and I don't want to see you go. I think there's room for everybody here, but we do have to look at what's best for the VNT as a regional product. It's our responsibility as commissioners and the taxpayers to make sure that these funds are distributed in a way that benefits the entire region. And we need to figure that out. With new board members, I agree. There's a lot of stuff. Even I'm the most senior on this board and been around about 10 years, outside of that, looking at the VNT from the other side. There's a lot of stuff I learn every day. It's like, wow, I didn't know that. Or, yeah, I didn't know that either. It's like, and there's things that I don't think any of it's, especially since we've reorganized, is done intentionally. But there's things, there's information out there that the Carson City side doesn't know about Story County. Story County doesn't know about the Carson City side, especially when you get into some of the finances. It's a unique commission, but again, it's something that is, I think, can drive traffic if it's done the right way. I would look forward to getting into a room where there's an open agenda where we can have a conversation. That is what and I've been wanting that for a long time. So I hope you can be a part of that. I do think that we need to move quick on this. We just need to get it agendized, get in a room, and however it is, and gather whatever information we can get. And if that's through Linda, great. We can talk about that when we go back to that item. But yeah, I had sensed that Elaine, that you were getting frustrated and maybe looking for something different. But again, I hope that you can at least help us do a transition and then maybe be available for some projects down the road. But you've done great. You've really done well.
Thank you,
So
Denny.
with that, I'll quit talking and open it up to the other
I
commissioners.
like listening to you. No, Elaine, I agree with Denny. I mean, you've done an amazing job. Yeah, obviously, I'd love to see you help us through the transition beyond March as well. But to Denny's point, now we're really kind of, I guess, on a clock officially with you providing us with this notice. So I'd like to go back to 13, reopen up agenda item 13. And I think under the circumstances, I would personally be in support of moving forward with this project, but with the understanding, though, that we're going to get answers before you officially are out the door, I think, is I realize you're going to help, but it's really Linda, just to clarify, I mean, Linda's doing the work. You're helping with the information that you have in your head and all over the place, I guess. And so, Stephanie, yes, go ahead.
Before we go back to 13, if I could just have a minute. First of all, Elaine, I echo David's sentiments that I'm very sad to see you go, especially just coming on. I was really looking forward to working with you, and I know you've done amazing things. So I will take advantage of you and your knowledge until you go. But one of the things that I just kind of wanted to throw out there that, the end of March is not far away at all. And this one project that we'll go back to is one issue at hand, but determining our next steps is obviously another issue and a potential replacement for the job well done that you have done. So one of the things that I just kind of throw out there for discussion to the board and to Elaine is whether there's an appetite for some sort of smaller scope of work contract. So you don't want to renew your full contract, but possibly maybe something that would keep you assisting us until we can get through this transition, and maybe even that includes helping us find your replacement in the process, just so we don't lose the momentum of what we have here. So I guess I just put that out there for discussion to everybody and to you, Elaine, as well.
Yes, and, the coming on board, a lot of it was discovery, like Denny indicated, and there were permits and reports to do, and, we have, there isn't one day that's always the same. You just never know what you're going to learn. And there is a lot of knowledge that I am documenting and reports that I'm filing, timelines that have been, that are due each year, items that are due, and we cannot fall back or behind again. And I would be open to a smaller contract or work when needed. But with COVID and the pandemic, it did take away from the VNT's ability to make money. And we have no way of knowing, what's going to happen for the next year. So that being said, I needed that freedom to look for other work, I'm not going to say work, but other clients, so that I too can retain, my income level or my income. And so, but I have a staff, and I have a staff that I am very fond of, and I would offer them to work, but under Zephyr Communications, I would always be their employer, as long as, if you needed that service, because that was something I learned after taking the contract, that what all it entailed as far as people, you need staff. And it was always there, but it was through the previous, I don't know if Bob was the manager or what title that he held, but he had his own employee agency that was for the VNT. We didn't, that was.
One of those mysteries that we
Yes, yeah.
went along the way.
Yeah. And so that's where I thought, well, heck, I'm an employer. I can, I'll bring employees. But I did have an amazing team that I worked with, and they loved the VNT. So again, not trying to run away. It's just what's best for VNT Railway and this commission.
Well, and I respect that, Elaine. So, as Danny said, I mean, we've got some tough decisions coming up, given the situation we're in with COVID as well. So, appreciate you thinking about the VNT as much as, obviously, for you personally. So, I'm grateful for that. Do you have anything else on 14, General Manager's report, before we go back and reopen 13?
Well, only I want to let Stephanie know that I didn't have a chance to thank the city for filling in the potholes on Eastgate Siding Road, and they were big and scary, and because it was just a meeting with Stephanie and the mayor, and they were filled. And I want to say thank you for that. It's made all the difference. I want you all to know, too, that there is a security, or not a security guard, but I have a young man living out at the depot right now in his own travel trailer, and he is there through April until the rail bikes start up, and it has helped immensely. We had attempted break-in. It was in, Angie, early November? Early November? Yeah, we saw it all on camera. We've had some other interesting things happen out there that, we catch people out there. And it was obvious that we needed to look less abandoned or accessible. That has made all the difference in the world. So if you go out to the depot, which I hope you do, and the improvements have been amazing, I just want to let you all know that there is a travel trailer out there in the front. I had him park in the front, and it says watchman on duty. And we're not paying him. He's using electricity and our water, but he is staying out there to protect the facility.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Great. Anything for Elaine on item 14?
I'll just take a brief moment to thank you for your work, Elaine, and kind of bummed that we don't get to work together in that same capacity, but I'm sure we'll be in the orbit regardless.
Yeah.
No, thank you again, Elaine, for everything you've done to turn this baby around, get the train back on the tracks, right?
Hey,
Or
we
the
all
rail
did
bikes,
it.
however you want to look at it. No, thank you. So I'd like to reopen 13, and let's go back and discuss the proposed strategic business plan with Linda Ritter Consulting, and just in light of what we've heard now with Elaine stepping down basically as of March, How does the commission feel about us moving forward with this, to try to help kind of get everybody on board here? And if the timing is right, we would have something in place before you exit, which allows us to do a workshop in March, which I think helps us with the budget planning process, right? So I'll throw it back out for some discussion with the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of thoughts, a lot of thoughts actually, because in addition to a couple of new board members coming on, and in addition to losing our chairman, in addition to changeover in general manager, I mean, there are a lot of moving pieces here. And one of the thoughts as I look at this particular item is, the title on it was a strategic plan, which in my mind had me looking forward, but it appears that a lot of kind of the initial task, which I think is proper and correct, is catching up to where we are and documenting and getting a clear understanding of exactly where we are. And so one of the questions in my mind, and I don't really have a clear answer to it, is are Linda's talents best used looking back and bringing us up to here, coming from here to strategically where we want to go, or some combination of the two? And I'm wondering if there's a need or a desire to maybe do some sort of, I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but it's like, in many ways, the commission is hitting a reset button. And if there's a need or a desire to, before we dive into details like this, to potentially schedule something even sooner to kind of have a meta conversation about, what our role is and where we want to go, kind of big picture. And what I mean by that is things like, do we want to pursue a similar arrangement for management of the day-to-day, or do we want to take that in a different direction, right? Should we have in-house personnel, or are we comfortable with the right fit having that provided by an outside entity? What are the kind of the strategic goals, and what each of our kind of home jurisdictions are hoping to get out of and provide to the organization? And so I'm just wondering if it makes sense for us to kind of have an open discussion among ourselves that kind of sets the stage. And I'm hesitant because I don't want that to close the door to taking advantage of this opportunity before we transition to laying out. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that it may be a little premature to dive into this level of detail without taking some quality time to just kind of get the big issues out there. And I feel like, in addition to the changes that have happened, COVID has forced us to slow down. And maybe it's the right time to kind of start from the very ground up, not on the specifics of running a train, but on what really we're hoping our work will accomplish here. So I don't know what that looks like, but maybe if there's an appetite to have some sort of an open discussion, public, of course, and to solicit public input, but maybe on a broad scale. I don't know if that closes the door to have Linda do this stuff, or if they should work in conjunction, but I would envision that much sooner than a workshop that she would lead.
In March, yeah.
March.
What about having Linda be a part of that initial workshop, right? So can we do both at the same, I mean,
Just
I
flip
guess
it.
my question is, would Linda be willing to help with both? Because I would be concerned about if we delay too long, it'll be April, right, or May, but
Yeah.
could she do that for this price? And we do a workshop, you're thinking February?
Yeah,
Right.
like early
Yeah.
February, so we can.
What if we have Linda along to help orchestrate that as a?
100%.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and Clay, thank you for those comments. I do think we need to meet as soon as we can, and I think we should have Linda there, and that she can be a part of. And if some of this, like you said, is in the past, okay, maybe it doesn't apply anymore. We don't have to spend that money or having to research it all. Let's look forward a little bit more than look back. We got to make some big decisions, and so maybe give her a little direction on what that might look like, what we all want to do. But most importantly, we got to get all the stakeholders there. I would seriously. There's a county manager. There's Tom Gray. There's the city manager's office. There's there's finance our comptroller from Story County, we all, everything, engineering, the maintenance, it all needs to be talked about. And what are some ideas and some thoughts, what that may look best? Maybe there's a couple of scenarios that we work towards too, that Linda could put together for us.
I 100% behind that. Stephanie, I don't want to make a point.
That,
I just wanted to add that, I mean, I like that idea and I think it's fantastic. We definitely need to decide what the future is and where we need to go. But I think that it would be helpful to maybe do it in parallel with these other tasks. I'd hate to lose the opportunity to just get some of this history and get it documented. And I think in order to know where we're going, we need to know how to get there. And so we need, and where we've been, so that we have that backup information. And I don't know if, because of timing, if there'd be a need to maybe have a special meeting where maybe Linda can give us a revised scope that could include that additional scope. And then we could have a special meeting to approve that so that we could get together in February and start it that way. I don't know if that's the process. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Well, Stephanie, could I just make a suggestion? If we're all in agreement to have Linda add this in, can we give direction to a motion to amend the scope of work? I'd like to keep the price the same if at all possible. I mean, I know you'd have to, but can we give Elaine the ability to kind of
And
revise that scope of work, I guess? with
Could I
Linda?
make a quick
Yeah,
comment?
please, yeah.
Because this was, Clay, you were spot on. Denny and I had that conversation. We needed to bring everybody in the room. And so that was the original concept, was to get everybody's expectations out. I was calling it a request by the city, and then the Story County and the other entities to send us or inform us what they expected for their investment, their return on investment. That was the question. And we were talking about, that was the original concept. I don't see a problem with us starting the workshop and then working in parallel with the information gathering and documentation, so that the long-term plan is going to come from that initial conversation. Everybody's going to be able to, before you can make that decision as far as the long-term plan, you need to know what everybody's expectations are. So original concept is exactly what you were describing.
And I don't want to speak for Linda because she's not, here, obviously, but I think this would help her, right, with what she's tasked with. So I'm just suggesting a small scope change then, based on what you've said, Clay, to allow her to be a part and facilitate that workshop in some point in February, sooner than later.
Yeah, interesting. We actually hired, I think I hired Linda before, when we first got reorganized, to do a very similar thing. But I don't think we still didn't know who we were. We didn't have all the information. It took us years to figure out a lot of stuff. I think we've cleaned a lot of that out, and I think it's easier now to get some information. But I do think time is a little bit on our side in one respect. We don't necessarily have, because COVID, we really can't run for a while. So we got a little time there before we actually could maybe get back to somewhat of a schedule on running the train. But the only thing that is a watch out is a tentative budget. And that's,
Yeah. That COVID doesn't delay.
that's a kind of a crapshoot, actually. It's going to be, no matter what, we're going to have to put something together, even if it changes, but we'll have to have some numbers that go in.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be, Denny, that'll be just like this year. We came up with a tentative budget. In fact, we had 2 to choose from. And it still didn't work out in our favor. COVID lasted and lasted. And so maybe we started on a different, with smaller expectations this year. And then if we start to run the trains and, we're running those 2 operations in parallel, there's going to be, when that happens for the VNT, we're running trains and we're running the rail bikes, you're going to see the everything just take off. And it will be, it'll be a great opportunity for VNT in Carson City, Story County, And financially, I think the V&T is going to reap the benefits. And I look forward to seeing that. Even if I'm not here, I would like to see it happen.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Denny and I talk, setting aside the commission piece, but just as DMO executive directors about the visitor experience, right? At the end of the day, for us, that's what means everything, right? You know, is people walking away and having a wonderful time here, whether they were in Carson City, Virginia City, both, the lake, whatever the case may be. That's what it's all about, right? We want people to say, oh my God, I had this amazing time in Carson City or Virginia City, riding the train, riding the rail bike, whatever. They did it all, even better. You know, so we're all collectively benefiting from it from a regional perspective. So, yeah, I like it. So, anybody want to take a shot at a motion on this? I'm not looking at you, Clay. I'm looking at Denny.
You're
I'm
on a
looking at
roll, Vice
Stephanie.
Chair. You're throwing them out there.
You know you don't get paid, right, extra, per motion made.
Golly. So I guess can we just clarify kind of what changes or specifics we need to get in here to kind of reflect the most recent conversation that we've had?
Yes. I think we're looking at adding a preliminary workshop
Okay,
in February that Linda would sort of facilitate, be a part of, but while also collecting sort of that back-end information, which still leads us to the March follow-up.
okay.
I think
And
it's-
is the thought to authorize staff to
Yes.
negotiate?
Absolutely, that scope of work change. Yeah.
And in making that motion, do I need to, I'm imagining we need to put a cap on the dollar commitment there.
I'd like to see if she could do it for the $6,800 if possible, without increasing, because I
Or could
actually.
I recommend, maybe if after the preliminary, after the information gathering, if you choose to do a workshop to do further a business plan, that come later?
Oh,
And
sure,
you
we could do
have that information?
Yeah.
So we're just starting with the workshop of the key stakeholders
Mhm.
and getting their input in parallel to combining all the information. And then, after we've gone through that exercise, you can entertain a second agreement that you've designed to what were our needs. Okay, what do we need to do? Do we need a 5-year, 10-year? How do we, and then it's the board putting together those plans.
So as far as the scope of work for now, are we in essence taking out the plan compilation and writing piece that was originally in it? We're looking at 2 workshops, kind of a preliminary and then more of a directional, what have you, or after we've compiled all that stuff, then kind of, so it's research and a couple of workshops. Is that the direction that we're going?
What Stephanie wants to.
I just wanted to point out that in the proposed services, it does say facilitate V&T Railway Commission workshops. So I think if we said, we approve the scope as proposed, but we want a February workshop and a
And a
March workshop, because it already does say plural.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting we keep the cost the same.
Okay.
And
Okay.
not add to it based on the proposal. Because I don't think we're asking a lot, unless I'm mistaken, by having her facilitate the February meeting, or the workshop, excuse me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it has the potential to actually make our
Help.
work more efficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you'll allow me to work, check with Linda. To
Absolutely.
make
Yeah,
sure,
well,
because
absolutely.
our
Of course.
discussion was the one workshop.
Okay.
If that's plural, I didn't catch that.
Okay.
So if you would allow me to talk with her about that, and if she says, oh, yes, it is plural,
Yep.
then
Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Mitchell. Move to instruct staff to negotiate a contract with Linda Ritter Consulting not to exceed $6,800 to include at least the research and workshop preparation and facilitation elements that are included in this proposal. In addition, a preliminary workshop in February.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Desi?
I see no public comment, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That was a tough one. All right, moving on to item 15, for discussion only, attorney's report. Michael?
Make sure I'm not muted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty much all that I've done in the past month has been to work with Elaine on the issue of Stan's resignation, the breakaway property, and there was one other thing that we had worked on. Taking a look at the interlocal agreement with Story County. And then from that, this proposal for Linda came up. So I think it's real important that you do have that workshop with her, or workshops. And I'd really encourage you guys to have it written up so that you've got a kind of a template to go by when you're considering the future. I can tell you that a lot of your original records are in my files in the basement. And I'm not going to be around forever, so you're going to need to get some kind of a template going that everybody can work from. That's all I got.
Thank you. No, I was trying to get my button working again. No, that's great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that update. 16, for discussion and possible action, next meeting. And now, notwithstanding what we just talked about with the workshop, this would be the regularly scheduled commission meeting on February 25th. Does that still work for everybody? Okay. And then obviously we'll figure out what the workshop will be in February, because you need to talk to Linda
Check
about
with
that,
everybody's
schedules and county managers and all those, all the stakeholders. So, all right. So I guess I need a motion on that for the 25th.
I'll be happy to make that motion. I move that we schedule our next regularly scheduled meeting for February 25th, 2021.
Thank you, Clay.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comment on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. 17, commissioner comments. Turn it over to my colleagues.
Ladies first.
Well, I guess I'll just say it's nice really to meet everybody, and I'm glad to be here. I look forward to this opportunity to learn more about the commission, see where we lead into the future. So thank you.
Oh, well, yeah, just again, nice to meet everybody, and thank you. You know, I was really looking for one more big project to work on, and thankfully, it looks like we got some work to do here. So, but I am looking forward to the opportunity that it provides as well, and to really kind of to check in and to if we need to course correct, or if we need to refine where we're headed, to make sure that it works for everybody and it achieves the goals that that are important to us and our stakeholders. So I'm looking forward to that process.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great ride. So, I too. Denny, any last comments?
And I've already said, I did welcome new commissioners. You guys can see now you need to bring a lunch and tighten up your belt for these meetings, I guess.
Yeah, my goal was to have this thing done in under 4 hours. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I'm way
you
ahead of
did
schedule
that.
here.
And I think, not to rub him a little bit, but I think Chairman Jones there, his first meeting might have been about 3 hours. So you might have beat him anyway, okay?
Wow, I'm already ahead of. Do I get to credit that to the next meeting? I mean,
Hey, there you go.
no, thank you, everybody, and Stan, geez, thank you for everything. And Elaine, this is just sad. So, watching you two walk away, I mean, we'll get you on a rail bike or a train ride. We know people, all right? Ken, Gabe, thank you as well. Michael, thank you. if I could get a motion to adjourn, that'd be wonderful, and I'm not even going to look at Clay. Somebody else.
I move to adjourn.
Second
We're
that
adjourned.
motion.